Hey everybody, I am doing a water change here on my 55-gallon T-bar tank, and I'm scratching my head about the temperature in this tank. It's been really high compared to what I've got the temperature set at in the tank, and I've been chalking it up to the room temperature being as warm as it is. So I've got this thermometer back there, or it's a heater with a thermometer built onto the front of it, so I can actually see what's going on in the tank. And I've paid attention to make sure it's not actively heating when it's not supposed to be. I have the temperature set at 26 degrees, and yet when I started this water change it was reading 29 degrees. And it's usually 28 or 29 degrees every time I come in here. And again, I know my basement is warm. I've got the dehumidifier running. I've got all these lights on. The temperature just builds up down here in the basement, especially when we've been having this long, extended heat wave where I can't really open the windows and turn the fan on. Even at night, I can't really vent the basement out because at night the temperature has only been getting down into the upper 80s. So it's, I can't really cool the basement down if the air outside is hotter than it is in here. So I'm stuck with letting the basement just be warm. But it's not that warm. It's not 85 degrees down here, which is almost what 29 degrees Celsius amounts to. So I started just checking around. I stuck a thermometer in my gourami tank, which is literally just about touching it. I do keep a separator, if you're ever wondering. I do keep something between my tanks so that the fish looking this way can't get into spats with fish on the other side of the glass over there. I've had issues with that in the past, so I always keep my tanks that are side by side like that separated by a piece of cardboard so that there's no visual connection between the two tanks. You don't get any aggression through the glass that way. Regardless, they are sitting side by side, so if the room is what's making this tank so warm, then in theory the room should be making this tank just as warm. And yet you see what that temperature says. Now we can take this probe, and of course this isn't going to be a valid test anymore now that I'm running cooler water back into the tank. We can put that probe right near where I'm running the cooler water back in. But you can see the probe is already climbing even though I'm adding cooler water back into the tank. So it's not my imagination. This tank is warm. And I don't know why it's so warm. Let's actually put the probe. I tried my 29 miscellaneous tank, which is the tank right there, and that was 78.5 degrees, which is about right where it should be. I like most of my tanks to sit around 78 degrees unless I have a reason for it to be warmer or cooler. So let's try sticking my temperature probe in this tank, if I can get it in there. And we'll give that a few moments. And this one is definitely climbing. So this tank is pretty warm too. When I set it in my T-bar tank this morning, and I do have to be careful, we are filling this tank at the moment. But when I set it in there, I measured with this, and this came out saying 84.7 or 84.5 or something like that. It was almost 85 degrees, and that's really warm. It's not too warm for these tropical fish. They can all live in that temperature, but it's way warmer than I necessarily want it. So this tank's sitting in at around 83.5, so we're still got a pretty good temperature going on in here too. So that I would chalk up to being a warm room. And then in this tank I actually have these much higher output lights. These lights actually do get fairly warm. They don't get as warm as the old fluorescents that I had on here. They got really warm. But these actually do convey some temperature. So I would imagine over time it does tend to warm that tank up. And the ambient room temperature down here is probably close to 80 degrees already. So why this tank sits at nearly 85 degrees, I don't know. It's got the same light. This is just an LED shop light. It's Lights of America brand. It's I got it from Walmart. It is identical to this shop light right here. It's another same exact light, same brand, same everything. So if it's the light that's creating so much heat and temperature rise, Why am I not seeing equivalent in this one? Why is this tank 2 or 3 degrees warmer than the ones right next to it, and 5 or 6 degrees warmer than this tank right here? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's not like I have mad shifts in room temperature from, you know, here to here. It's not a, you know, great difference in ambient room temperature. I got the same lighting on there. The only difference is I have a different type of heater on this tank than I do on the other tanks. But as I said, I've paid close attention to that display. There's a little red light that comes on when it indicates that it's actively heating, and I see it come on. You know, I've seen it when I've done water changes and I've done a nice, you know, brought the temperature down, and that light comes on until it comes back up to the set temperature, and then it goes off. So it seems to be working properly, and yet this tank is still exceptionally warm. So just some thoughts. I don't know. Be interested to hear your take on it. I don't know what's going on or why it's so warm, but we are doing some water changes today, so hopefully we'll get that around the world update coming up here really soon. So make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for watching this one. Don't forget that is my T-bar tank. I'll see you real soon in the next one.